Welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to teach you the number one skill to build healthy, lasting, loving relationships. Let's dive in. We have children, we have partners, we have friends, we have parents, we have siblings, and these relationships are actually what make our lives meaningful. One of the things that I love about watching sports like the Olympics or watching basketball is when somebody wins. Let's say they run a world record in the Olympics, right? When they win that world record, they win that gold, the first thing they always want to do is find the person that they love, because they don't want to celebrate it on their own. Celebrating is only fun when you have other people to celebrate with. So they find the people that mean the most to them. These are what make our lives meaningful. And one of the most powerful tools that you can have to maintain and strengthen your relationships is this process that's called repair. And so I got this from a clinical psychologist. Her name is Dr. Becky Kennedy. And we're going to dive into the importance of this thing that's called repair. And I'm going to give you an example that is going to be specifically around a parent-to-child relationship. But you can take this and you can mold it into any of your relationships. So let me give you the example, okay? Let's say that it's Sunday night. You've had a really long day. Maybe you had to work this Sunday and you had to work overtime and you're exhausted. And you ask your children to do something. You ask them to put away their toys and they say, okay. And then you come back and their toys aren't done and they didn't put them away. And you say, hey, will you put your toys away? And then you go and you do something else. And now it's just like, you got more stuff building up and building up and building up. You're starting to feel exhausted. You're starting to feel overwhelmed. You're starting to feel, oh my God, I got to go back to work in the morning. And I just got off work with working a double. And then what happens? You walk in and the room is still not clean. And what happens? You just blow up. And you finally, it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. And you start yelling at your kid. You start saying, why don't you appreciate me? I've been working so hard. And you just snap. You start yelling at them. And then the child starts yelling at you. And then they storm off to their room. They slam their door. And you're there by yourself, sitting there. And how do you feel? Do you feel like you did a good job? You feel like you crushed it? No, what do you feel? You feel guilt. You feel regret. You start blaming yourself. You start getting all in your own emotions of self-blaming, and you're not good enough. You're not a good enough parent, and you just screwed your child up forever. They're never going to be the same. And so for a lot of parents, this is really common, but this is also common in any relationship where your spouse does something and you've been telling them not to do this thing for a while and they do it again, and then you blow up on them. And then do you ever feel good about it? No, you never feel good about it. You always feel like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. What the hell's wrong with me? And this happens all the time in really close relationships that we have. And the thing that we have to understand is that the relationships that are the closest to us is our biggest area for personal growth, the people who are closest to us. And the reason why is because the people that are closest to us trigger and push our buttons more than anybody else, which when we're triggered, we're not free. And so no matter how skilled or well-intentioned you are as a parent, mistakes, moments like this, all of these things, there's the disconnection of one person to another person, that there's that connection feeling where there's connection, there's love, and then there's a feeling of disconnection when these moments happen, right? But those moments are inevitable. But I want you to understand, it's not the mistakes that define the relationship. It's not the mistakes that define you as a person. It's really how you handle the mistakes afterwards. And this is where this concept of repair comes in. And when I say repair, it's not apologizing, because apologizing is not the same thing. But what I'm going to be talking about today is repair, and we're going to dive into the difference between them. So when we look at repair itself, what is repair? Repair is just basically the process of revisiting a moment of disconnection from the other person, taking responsibility for your behavior and acknowledging the impact that it's had on the other person. It's not like an apology. An apology often aims to shut down the conversation. Hey, I'm sorry that I yelled at you. Can we move on? I'll let you have ice cream for dessert. There's no solution in that at all. It's like, hey, can we just get past this thing? And you know what? I'll even give you a treat if you don't talk about it. Right? That's an apology and trying to move on. A good repair, what it does is it opens the door to further connection with that person and understanding. And I'm going to tell you why this is so important in just a second. The idea of repair has the acknowledgement that there was a moment of the disconnection, but rather than viewing this disconnection as some sort of failure, it's helpful to see this as really just an opportunity. And you will learn so much about yourself through this, and the other person, especially if they're your children, will learn so much about how to get better at conflict resolution if you get better at this and don't try to just push it under the rug. Okay? Repair allows us to really kind of transform this disconnection into a moment of deeper understanding between us and them. And really the importance of it is I'm going to give it to you. There's so many different important pieces of repair. Now, what if we look at the situation and we don't repair? So if we're going to dive into, before we talk about how to repair, let's talk about what happens if we don't repair with the other person. So let's go back to the same scenario we were just in with the child, right? You yell at them. The child now runs to their room, and that child feels what? Alone. That's one of the worst feelings in the world for a child. But it's also one of the worst feelings alone for an adult. But your child is now alone in the room, feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed out. And without the repair, your child is basically going to take this situation on their own and often revert to coping mechanisms. And one of the most common coping mechanisms for someone who doesn't really understand emotions is self-blame. They're going to see it and they're going to say, I'm the reason why my father just got mad. When in reality, they're not the reason why I would have just gotten mad. I got mad because of my reaction to a circumstance. So it has nothing, my getting mad, if I get mad at my child, has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with my own shit that I need to work on. Are you seeing this? But what happens to the child when they're alone? Oh, this is my fault. I did this thing that made this person get mad. Hey, real quick, I want to introduce you to something called Mindset Mentor Plus. If you love this podcast, you will absolutely love what I'm about to talk about. I designed Mindset Mentor Plus to help you actively integrate every one of these episodes into your life. And here's how it works. With every episode of this podcast that comes out, Mindset Mentor Plus subscribers get more. You're going to get multiple page, detailed, printable worksheets, effectively a mini masterclass that's way more in depth than just this podcast. They also come with journaling questions, challenges, assignments, and so much more, so that you're not just listening to these podcasts passively, but you're actively integrating them into your life. That way you improve much faster. I also do monthly Q&A sessions in there and much, much more. If you want to learn more about it, go to mindsetmentor.com or click the link that's down in the description. And so children lack the emotional tools and maturity to process these situations correctly, and usually tend to internalize moments like this and think to themselves, this was my fault. And let's be real. Children lack emotional tools and maturity, but most adults lack emotional tools and tools to be able to process things like this. So they think something's wrong with me. I'm unlovable. I did something bad. No one loves me. I'm alone in this world. I can't trust anyone else but myself. And this internalization most times carries into adulthood. And then that leads to people who are alone, people who have anxiety, people who have depression, people who have a deep sense of unworthiness. I see this all of the time with all of these adults that I coach. And you see a 40-year-old, 50-year-old person that's dealing with things they have never dealt with these things from their childhood because their parents didn't really know how to do stuff like repair. And so they always thought things were their own problem, and they thought it was their fault. The key to repair is this. The stories of self-blame that the children create in those moments can shape their identity and how they relate to others and how they grow throughout their entire life. And these stories become core fears that many adults struggle with. The feeling of I'm unlovable, the feeling of being fundamentally flawed, the fear of love and connection, and the fear of rejection. So here is the key. Repair is not just an apology. Repair is not just about fixing the momentary fight or the disconnection. It's about changing the story that your child is telling themselves to ensure that the story is being changed to one that is safety, that's connection, that's self-worth, that is love, that is repair, versus, oh, I'm sorry about it. Can we just move on? See the difference? Because what happens is if the child goes to themselves and they're alone, they start creating their own narratives. And a lot of times these narratives are, there's something wrong with me. Well, as an adult, I want to step in and say, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. That was my fault, and start repairing the situation. I'll teach you exactly how to repair it. Cool? So hopefully you understand the importance of this. So let's talk about how to repair the situation and to change the story that's going on in your child's head. Or once again, this could be your loved one's head. This could be a fight that you got into with your spouse. It could be your boyfriend. It could be your girlfriend. It could be your sister. So when you engage in repair, you do more than just like patch up a momentary issue with this person. What you're doing is you're helping rewrite the child's narrative and rewrite their story of that event and change their own identity. And this is the reason why therapy is so effective for people, is because what do you do in therapy? You revisit painful memories in safety, the safety of a therapeutic relationship, which when you revisit it, you can then change the story. And when you change the story, you change the individual and you change their own identity that they have themselves. So you're kind of doing a mini therapy session after the event with your child so that later on they don't have to go to therapy. They don't have to go to therapy as an adult because of you, right? So that's what you're kind of doing in that moment. In the same way, when the repair itself allows you to revisit and alter the narrative that your child might create about this stressful event of it being their fault. And it's not just about removing the negative self-blame, but it's also about adding other things that might have been missing, right? The feeling of love, the feeling of safety, the feeling of connection, the feeling of understanding, the feeling of, hey, I was, as an adult, I was the one who just went through this, and I want to say that I am sorry for the way that I acted. It had nothing to do with you. I have just had a stressful day. And it allows them to see what an apology looks like. It allows them to see what fixing and what it looks like to be triggered, but then also what it looks like to come back and actually fix a wound that you just caused. Everyone in this world has triggers. Everybody has hangups. Nobody is perfect. And your child needs to understand that too. And so they understand, yeah, my mom and dad aren't perfect, but every time that they did mess up, they always came back to make sure that I knew I was loved, that I knew that I was saved. And so the first piece of repair is you have to repair with yourself. Before you can give anybody anything, before you can offer compassion or understanding or love to the child or to your spouse, you need to give those qualities to yourself first. Repair of yourself involves separating your identity, which is who you are, from the behavior, which is what you did. Because there's a lot of times that people will say, oh my God, I just did this. I'm a terrible mother. That's bullshit, right? What you're doing is you're taking behavior and placing on top of your identity. Your identity is who you are. Your behavior is what you did. And so it's about sitting there and acknowledging, while you may not be proud of your behavior, it doesn't define you. You're still a good parent. You're a good person. You just had a momentary lapse of judgment. You had a hard time. It's been a hard day, right? You blew up. That's what you did. That's behavior. But it doesn't go into your identity and make you a bad person. It's not about letting yourself off the hook or any of that stuff, but it's really a way of holding yourself more accountable that is constructive versus destructive. And so when you pray with yourself, then you can come and you can go, okay, now I'm calm, now I'm clear-headed, now I can get into a meaningful conversation with the kid or a meaningful conversation with my spouse. Okay? Step 2, the second thing that you want to do is you want to repair with your child or the other person. Once you've grounded yourself, now you can go and you can talk to them, right? So the steps that Dr. Becky gives is this. Quite simple. Number 1, name what happened. Number 2, take responsibility. Number 3, state that you will do something differently next time. And then make sure that you start working to be different. So first one, name exactly what you did. Say exactly what happened, exactly what went through. And it shows your child that you're aware of the event. You're aware of what went wrong. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to take responsibility. Own up to your actions. Don't blame it on anybody else. Don't say, oh, well, I wouldn't have said this if you wouldn't have said that. No, because then that's also them being the problem. When it's not them that's the problem, it's you that's the problem. I want you to understand this is the core of what I'm saying here is it's never about the circumstances of your life. It's always about our reaction to the circumstances. If you blew up at your child or you blew up at your spouse, it's not them, it's you. And that's really hard for most people to hear because they're like, no, they won't clean their shit up. It's them. No. Okay, yeah, we can get better at helping them clean their stuff up. But your reaction to them is what actually you're in control of. And so this is really crucial for modeling what accountability looks like. So many parents, and I see this, I can't tell you how many times I see this with people who are grown adults where their parents still won't take accountability for anything. And so what you're doing is you're showing your child, you're modeling what accountability looks like for them. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to tell them what you're going to do differently next time. It shows the child that you're committed to change and committed to growth and becoming better. Damn, that looks so good for a child to see, right? And so it can be something like, hey, listen, can we talk about what happened an hour ago? Listen, I'm sorry I yelled, and I'm sure that probably was terrifying because I understand I'm an adult and I'm way bigger. And I want to let you know that the yelling wasn't your fault. And I'm really working at trying to be more calm, and especially when I'm frustrated. And so I just want to tell you that I'm sorry and I love you. It wasn't your fault. And so what happens is when they hear that, the child goes, okay. And it's not saying the child doesn't need to get better at cleaning their stuff up. I don't want you to think that at all. But what it's saying is my reaction was not your problem. My reaction was my problem. You're taking responsibility as an adult should, right? This simple 15-second intervention can have a massive impact on your child. So it clears up the feelings of self-blame for them, but also strengthens the moment of safety of like, I am still safe here. I can still trust my parents and I don't have to do this on my own. And so when you look at like the long-term consequences of repairing with your child sets the stage for them to have healthy relationships when they're an adult. Also, so they're not the kid that goes off into the schoolyard and is a bully to another kid because they feel like they were bullied at home, right? So it allows them to grow up and be an adult who, if you're a child who had consistent repair, like the parents weren't perfect, but they kept repairing, then the child's less likely to spiral into self-blame and not feel like everything is their fault. They're also more likely to develop a secure attachment style and like a love attachment style with another person instead of like an anxious attachment or an avoidant attachment. They'll also be way better equipped to take responsibility for their own behavior because they were able to see from their parent how to take responsibility for the behavior and what to do from there. So it's a skill that they will learn from who? From you. Yeah, wouldn't you like them to model that? And so really what it does, and the most important part of this, of the difference between an apology and a repair, is the apology is just like, hey, I'm sorry, can we move on? The repair itself, the biggest part about it is that you're changing the story behind everything, right? You're changing the narrative that's going on inside of your head. You're changing the narrative that's going on inside of the head of the person that you love so that they don't take it on and put it all on themselves and make them think that it's their fault and that there's something wrong with them and that they're unlovable. And it's about moving beyond guilt, moving beyond blame, and more of a place of like love, understanding, and growth, which is a really big part of a deep connection with another person. So next time a fight occurs in your relationship, just remember, it's not the end of the story. This is going to happen. That's what being a human is. But what you want to do is you want to think, okay, how can I not just apologize, but how can I repair? And repair means changing the story that might be going on in their head so they can understand the whole reality. Really, with repair, you have the power to write a new, more loving chapter with this person who you actually love. You're able to take responsibility, start working on yourself and start becoming better, but then also repair and work through the relationship with the person that you love. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. The number one way that you can give back and say thanks for this podcast or anything that we've put out there is just by sharing it. The only way this podcast grows is by you guys sharing it through grassroots. We don't have any big advertising agencies behind us trying to put this podcast out or anything like that. We only grow when you guys share it. So if you would share this, hopefully someone that follows you would be able to find it. Hopefully you'd be able to help them with their relationships as well. And so I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to leave the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. You are a badass. Like, you should tell yourself that every single day about how much of a badass you are. And I think the more that we can push ourselves out of our comfort zones, the more that we can grow our willpower and become more mentally strong. Today, we're going to be talking about how to become more mentally strong, how to build our own mental toughness. And I'm going to talk about how to grow yourself through a Japanese technique. And we're going to talk about how to use this Japanese technique. And you can do it at least once. But I recommend, if you really are the type of person that are trying to change your life, become mentally strong, do something like this once a month. And so the idea behind it is called Misogi, okay? And it's the Misogi challenge. Misogi is 2 words in Japanese. Mizu, which means water, and I could be butchering this. I've never spoken Japanese, so if you do speak Japanese, please be kind to me. Misu, not like the soup. Maybe it is, I don't know, shit. But that means water, and sogi, which means purification. So it means water purification. And misogi is about physical, mental, and spiritual purification. Now, in the misogi, it's usually a process that involves cold water for purification. But in this episode, we're not just going to be talking about cold water. And so this is going to be talking about doing something that is hard to you, that is beyond your capacity, or that mentally, as of right now, you think is beyond your capacity. But you do it, and it will then grow your willpower so that you can learn to start doing things that you think in your mind might be hard. But then you start getting used to, okay, this thing seems hard. Instead of me backing down, I'm going to go at it. It's kind of like the obstacle is away. Instead of this obstacle being in front of me and me trying to, I'm just going to not go for it, I guess. No, it's like the obstacle is in front of me. I'm going to go through the obstacle. And the idea behind this is to do something that's so hard that it makes all of the things in your life right now, the quote unquote hard things, seem like not such a big deal, right? And I'll give you a great example. Like, if you're a woman listening to this podcast who has given birth, after being in the room where a woman has given birth with, my wife, with my son, seeing all the things she went through over the 9 months, you really should just remind yourself how badass you are. Like, you should just remind you, like, if you've given birth before, you're fucking incredible. Like, no man can come close to that. You should remind yourself, instead of being like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, you should be like, I brought a fucking life into this planet, right? Like, I went through 9 hours of labor, whatever it is. And it's to remind yourself that you've done this really hard thing, so that the things that pop up in your life where you're like, oh, well, I'm getting really nervous that people might judge me if I post on Instagram. It's like, no, man, like, do you know the type of shit that I've been through? And so, like, if you've given birth, I just want to give you your flowers and just remind you, you are a badass. Like, you should tell yourself that every single day, about how much of a badass you are. If you've done other hard things in your life, you should tell yourself every single day how much of a badass you are. And the point of it is to do something that is so hard that it makes the quote unquote hard things that we're stepping back from in our lives not seem like a big deal at all, so that we can expand who we are, so that we can expand our mindset. And it's like working out. When you go to the gym and you haven't been in the gym in a long time and you have little weak muscles, you can't lift as much. But the more that you do it over and over and over again, you start getting stronger. And then lifting the heavier things in the gym, just like lifting the heavier things in life, become easier over time. And so I want you to understand that, like, so many people listening to me have been through way harder things in their life. Like I said, like giving birth, or, the death of a loved one, or, whatever it is that it might be that you guys have been through, that when a little thing pops up in your life, like, oh, I need to put this presentation together for my boss, that's nothing compared to what you've been through and what you've done. You need to remind yourself of how badass you are. And I think the more that we can push ourselves out of our comfort zones, the more that we can grow our willpower and become more mentally strong. And the less that we care about and focus on all of the little shit that's around us. If you think about it, like, if you really think about it, the people who, and this is a very, very, very general statement, but I think the people that complain the most are usually the people that are not wanting to do things, but they want things done for them. If you listen to this podcast, you know that you are the person that needs to change in your life. You didn't click on Mindset Mentor because you're like, I want to fix my wife. Well, hopefully you didn't. You were thinking to yourself, I need to fix myself so that I can fix my life, right? The toughest people in the world that you find are usually the ones who have been through the worst things. And so we can let life happen to us, which it will naturally, or we can actually go and seek out these things that are really hard for us to do. And by doing these really hard things, we start to build confidence in ourselves. And we start to remind ourselves how amazing we are, how badass we are, how much we can accomplish. And we start developing more and more confidence within ourselves. So the original misogi, the way that they did it in the Japanese practice would be this. They would fast for a few days. They would have some isolation. They would do meditation. They would do prayer. And then what they would do is they would submerge themselves in ice cold water. And it's a mental, physical, spiritual practice in purification. I'm not going to eat for a few days. I'm going to spend all of my time in isolation. I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to do prayer. And then I'm going to have days where I put myself in the water and do something that is really hard, take myself out of it, don't eat for a few days, meditation, prayer, put myself back in the water. And it was a physical, mental, and spiritual purification process so that everything else outside of that misogi didn't seem so hard. And so now how can we take this idea and bring it into our lives? It could be cold water. Definitely can. I recommend doing cold water often. There's so many benefits to it. I talk about the inner bitch, the voice that's inside of your head that's talking down to you and telling you you're not good enough and telling you that you need to stop, telling you that you shouldn't go and try to change your life. You shouldn't put yourself out there. You shouldn't grow that business. You shouldn't ask that person out. That little inner bitch is trying to hold you back from everything that you want. And that voice is 100% going to come online whenever you want to get into cold water. And that is the thing that's holding you back more than anything else. So if you can start hearing that voice and doing the opposite of what it says, and hearing that voice and doing the opposite of what it says, and hearing that voice and the opposite of what it says, you stop listening to it. And when you stop listening to it, you start doing things that you need to do to change your life. It tests your willpower, and willpower is something that can be grown. So that's something that we can do. But how else can we bring this idea of doing something so hard that it actually completely changes us in one go? Something that is a physical, mental, spiritual practice in our lives. How can we develop this cadence of misogi so that we can use the water, but we can also use other things that we want to? And so here's what you really want to start to think about. And I'll give you some examples, okay? The idea is just doing something so hard that it changes you in one day. How can you do something that is so hard? And once again, something that is, obviously safe, not something that is just dangerous for you, but something that is so hard that it changes you in one day because you're like, I can't believe I did that. I cannot believe I did that thing. And we think change is like a gradual process, and it can be a gradual process, but change can happen in one instant. There's many things that have happened to you, good and bad in your life, that have just changed you in one go. You didn't need any other. It wasn't gradual at all. It was just a boom. It was changed. You are now a changed person. So what would you need to do to feel like a changed person right after? Once again, I'm going to give you some examples, but I'm asking you, what do you think that you need to do in order to just change you in an instant? What is it? What pops into your head? I want you to brainstorm for yourself before I give you these examples, because there might be something that you come up with that's completely different than what I came up with. And so I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I'm just going to say this at the beginning. I don't recommend any of them because I don't know you. I don't know your skill set. I don't know your mindset. I don't know your body. But if you want to try them out, you can. But I'm not recommending any of them. Just do this on your own. I'm not a doctor trying to tell you what you should do. An example of this would be this. Let's say that you live in a very mountainous or hilly environment, right? Take a very intense hike. And I don't mean like a nice little hike where you bring a water bottle and you take your iPhone so that you can take selfies the entire time. I mean something that you are sweating and breathing profusely and you have a heavy backpack on you, something that is beyond what you think right now is your capacity. That's an example of something you should do. Okay, maybe the furthest hike you've ever done is 5 miles. Maybe you should do 20. I don't know. Once again, I'm not recommending any of these. This is all for you to figure out on your own. So maybe it's something really intense like that. Maybe it's like a sweat lodge practice. Maybe you live in a place where there's Native Americans around and they have sweat lodges that you can go to. Like I know there's definitely some that are out in Arizona that I've seen. There's some that are in other places. So maybe it's like a sweat lodge that you do and it's a practice that you could go through over the course of a day. Maybe it's going for a run that is way beyond your capacity. And I mean way, way beyond your capacity. There's this idea that I've heard David Goggins talk about, which is the law of 40%, which is when you think you have gotten to your full capacity, you're only about 40% of your capacity. And the reason why is because your brain tries to tell you that you're done as a protection mechanism. And so it's like, oh, we've hit our capacity, but really you're only at about 40% of what you can do. And if you can push through that, that's really where you start to discover who you are. I remember there was one time that I had a client and she was telling me like for years, she just felt like she was stuck. For years, she just felt like she was stuck. She didn't know what to do. And she was just kind of stuck in her mindset for a really long time. And I was like, do you ever go for a run? And she's like, I mean, I'll go for walks and I go for like jogs and stuff like that. I was like, when was the last time you went for a run that was just way beyond your capacity? She's like, I don't know. I was like, what about this idea? Like, what could happen to you if you went to a run and you found your capacity and you just kept going until you felt and what I said was you felt like something broke mentally inside of you. And it was this idea, and I knew her really well, so I could challenge her and we could do this stuff. And I was like, I don't want you to break anything physically, but I want you to see if you can break this comfort zone mentally that you have. And, the next week we talked about it and she was telling me that normally she runs like 4 miles, right? And that's the most that she goes. And she got to like 10 miles and was like, I should give up. She kept going. She got to 15. And she got to the point where she was running and crying at the same time, not because of the pain that she was in, but because of the fact that she was just coming up against this voice that was inside of her head that's been holding her back for so long. And so she was battling this voice and she was crying because she's like, I feel like I'm just at battle with this voice all the time. And she's like, fuck you, I'm not going to stop. And she was like literally speaking to herself this way. She ended up running like 22 miles. She had never got anywhere near it before. And she was like, it was, in the way she described it, she's like, I was sore the next day physically, but she was like, it was like a spiritual awakening. Whereas like something inside of me clicked on that was like, I'm not going to lose this inner voice. There's something more inside of me. And so that might be something that you could do. There's also like silent retreats that you could do. Like for me, I know when I did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, that changed who I was at the core. Like it changed me completely. It's called Vipassana. You can Google it. They're free. They're just donation based and they're all over the United States and actually all over the world. And it's Vipassana, I think is how you spell it. And it was a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And people are always like, I always say the same thing when I talk about a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Oh, I could probably do 2 or 3 days, but I don't know if I could do 10. And the reason why 10 is important is because you can't talk to people. You can't look people in the eyes because you don't realize how much you're talking with your eyes. You can't journal. You can't read. You can't do yoga. You can't do anything other than meditate or walk outside or sit in your room, which has nothing on the walls. So it's literally about just like absolute boredom, absolute peace, going inward more than you're doing anything else. And the reason why I say it changed me is because at about day 7, I had like this breaking point at day 7, which was insane. I was so sore from sitting for so damn long and I was in the meditation center and I got so pissed. And I'm normally such like a chill person and all of that, but I got so pissed that by the time that I went to, so you had breakfast in the morning, then you had lunch, and then you didn't have dinner. There's no dinner that they have. It's just tea time. By the time I got to lunch, in my mind, I was mentally abusing every single person. I was like yelling at every single person that was in that lunch hall. The guy that sat in front of me, I was just like, once again, I'm not verbally saying anything. In my head, I'm screaming at every single person. There was just like so much rage that was coming out of me in this moment where I was like, I don't know where this is coming. It was like, this is stupid. Why am I here? This person sucks. You suck. I hate you. And it was like, I don't know where it all came from, right? And I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. And I was so mad. And I was like, I'm just going to go to one more meditation. I'm just going to go to one more. And I went to one more meditation. And I was like, you know what? I could probably stay for another one. So then after that, I went to the next one. And I got into this flow where all of this like rage basically came out of me. And I remember instead of sitting for like an hour, I was sitting for like 2.5 hours for these meditations. After this rage session happened, and I remember I was sitting there and I was doing absolutely nothing, but I was like literally crying tears of joy because I never felt so good in my entire life. And I was trying to comprehend how me doing nothing for 7 days And then now sitting there for 2.5 hours and my back is sore and I need to pee and I'm like crying. And I had like 5 or 6 meditations between day 8, 9, and 10 where I was just crying that I'd never felt so much joy in my entire life and I was doing nothing, right? Like that silent retreat was so damn hard. And it like literally just tired my hamster mind out to the point where I was able to find like actual true joy, right? That's an example of something that you could do. You could do fasting if you wanted to do it. You could do, carrying heavy objects over long distances. Maybe get an 80-pound vest and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to walk 5 miles today. Whatever it is that it might be, what you're trying to do is you're trying to break yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually out of something in doing something that you've never done before and you feel it is completely beyond your capacity. Because a lot of times we are capable of so much more than we settle for, and we settle for safe. And something like this, whether it's done one time a year or whether it's done, every single month, can really open you up to believing more in yourself because you're capable of so much more. That's why I said the thing about what, I told my wife this. I was like, you should think you're the most badass person alive after being pregnant for 9 months and all the things you had to go through and then going through labor. Like, you should think like you're a god or something. Like, you should be like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. That's the idea, is to remind yourself of how badass you are. The idea is to do something that at this moment, you don't know if you can do. It has to challenge you. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. So you have to, what I like to call, meet your end, where you're at the end of the rope mentally, physically, and you push through it, and then you really see what you're truly capable of. You have to get past the point of what you think is possible, and you'll find a new version of yourself. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please do me a favor, share it on your Instagram stories, tag me at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. The only way this podcast grows is from you guys sharing it. So if you would share it, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And, if you want to learn how to dominate your 2025 goals, you want to learn how to set, plan, and accomplish your goals for 2025, go ahead and download my free ebook. Once again, it is goals2025.com, goals with an S, 2025.com. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Let's play a little game real quick. I want you to think of one belief that you have, that you hold on to very strongly right now. It could be about politics. It could be about religion. It could be about money, relationships, health, any belief that you have. Do you have it in the front of your mind? Okay. Now I want you to imagine that I hand you 2 newspapers, and both of them have articles on the front of them. One of those newspapers proves that your belief is absolutely correct. And the other newspaper proves that your belief is absolutely false. Which one do you think you're more likely to read? Which one do you think that you're going to skip? Which one do you think that you might skim through? Well, if you're like pretty much every other human that's existing on this planet, you will gravitate towards the one that confirms what you already believe. And that's not because you're stubborn. It's not because you're arrogant. It's because your brain is actually wired that way. It's called the confirmation bias, and it is this silent architect that is creating your entire personal reality. And it doesn't seem like it's a really big deal when we're just talking about reading articles, but it's a really, really big problem when you are trying to grow yourself, when you're trying to create a better life, and when you're trying to get out of your comfort zone to build something great. Because you have beliefs about yourself. You have beliefs about the world. You have beliefs about other people. And you will always look for confirmation that your beliefs are true. And what this does is it doesn't free you in any sort of way. It actually kind of creates an invisible prison that you're stuck in. And it's one of the main reasons why people stay stuck in the same place and unconsciously self-sabotage themselves. Like the amount of times that I hear coaching clients say like, I self-sabotage, or I'm trying so hard, but I feel like even no matter how hard I work, it feels like my wheels are just spinning and I'm not going anywhere. Well, the confirmation bias is usually a really, really big piece to this. And that's why I want to dive into it with you today. So when you look at the confirmation bias, basically at its core, the confirmation bias is the brain's way of protecting its existing model of the world, which would also be known as your beliefs. So what you will do naturally as a human is you will seek out evidence that supports your beliefs so that your beliefs actually get stronger. You will also interpret neutral events in ways to fit your beliefs. So you actually take neutral events and shift them so that you actually see a neutral event as a way to actually show that your belief is stronger, that supports your belief even more. And then when you actually get evidence that challenges your beliefs, you will reject that evidence that is right in front of your face because it doesn't line up. And the reason why this is a trap is because, one of the reasons why it's a trap is because the smarter that you are, the better that you are at rationalizing your bias. Well, that sucks, huh? Because I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you're a pretty intelligent person. You want to learn and you want to grow and you're interested in science and psychology and neurology and all of that. So you're probably pretty smart, which means you're actually better at rationalizing your bias. There was a study that was done that really brought this home and turned it into a big psychological realm. There was a study that was done in Stanford in 1979, and they basically took two groups of people. One group supported the death penalty, and the other group opposed the death penalty. And they gave both groups two research studies. One of the research studies, quote unquote, proved that the death penalty stopped people from committing crimes. So it showed that this death penalty actually stops other people from committing crimes because they don't want to go and have the death penalty. And then the other research paper proved that it didn't. And then they had both of them read through them. And guess what? The result? People on both sides, everybody, doubled down on their original opinion. So hold on. You're telling me they didn't become more open-minded? No, they became more certain that they were right. They had proof that they were right, but then they also had proof that they were wrong. And they unconsciously identified with the research paper that proved what they already believed, which means that your brain is less likely to be objective, like hopefully a really good judge would be, being objective and seeing all of the facts and everything that's in front of us. Your brain's less likely to be objective like a judge, and it's more likely to be subjective like a lawyer that's hired to win your case, even if that means hiding evidence. And this is a really key part because I always say your brain is like cosmic Google. If you want to go into Google and you type something in, you're going to find your answer in Google. And so one of the things I've been saying for years, and I've always thought this is wild, is if you go into Google and you type in, is coffee good for your eyesight? You will find tons of studies about how coffee is good for your eyesight. If you go into Google and type, is coffee bad for your eyesight? You will get a whole bunch of studies about how coffee is bad for your eyesight. Your brain works the exact same way. If you go into your brain's Google and you say, why am I not good enough? Why am I not smart enough? Why am I a loser? Why will I never make enough money? And that's basically what we're doing all the time. Why am I not worthy of love? All of the data, all of the evidence that you need is sitting right there ready for it. But the problem is you're looking through that perspective and not the other perspective. And that's why you stay stuck. And your confirmation bias will hijack your perspective and your perception. So, to understand why it's so powerful, you need to understand how and where it operates. So when you look at your perception, it's basically what you see and the meaning that you assign to what it is that you see. And your confirmation bias will really mess with this. So your confirmation bias will actually determine how you see the world, how you observe the world, and then the meaning that you give the things that happen around you. And so here's the way you want to think of the confirmation bias, okay? Imagine that I am driving a car and you're next to me in the passenger seat. And as I'm driving the car, I start hearing a weird clicking noise. And I'm like, oh my God, something's wrong with my car. And I pull off and I go on to the next exit. My brain is going to filter out almost everything except for what looks like it might be a mechanic shop or someplace they can help me fix my car. If you're really hungry, you're not going to notice any of the mechanic shops. What are you going to do? You're going to notice every place that we could possibly eat. And then let's say our friend is in the backseat and our friend in the backseat really has to go to the bathroom. They're not going to notice anything except for places where they could possibly go to the bathroom. There's a gas station. There's a McDonald's. Oh my God, there's a bush. I have to go so bad. Just let me pull over to the bush. So we're in the same car. And this is a phrase that I always am quoted for, is we're all seeing the same thing, but we're all seeing something different. That is what perception is. And perception is changed by our confirmation bias. I'm seeing anything that looks like a mechanic shop. You're seeing anything like a place where you could go and eat. Our friend is seeing anything that looks like a place where he could go to the bathroom. So you want to think of your perception as like your brain's interpretation filter. And here's how your brain will be hijacked by your perception and also your confirmation bias. It will spot what supports you. So your brain will pay attention to the details that confirm what you already think. It will bend the meaning of other things. Research has found that we will actually change neutral facts to interpret them to fit our pre-existing story. And it will dismiss anything that happens to challenge what our beliefs are. So any information that contradicts, we'll just reject it, we'll minimize it, or we'll just ignore it entirely. And so like an example of this is like, say you and I decide to go out and get dinner and we have another friend that's going to be coming, right? And we go there and one of our friends who's supposed to be coming, the third friend, they cancel on us. And you might have the perspective of people are unreliable just from beliefs and things that have happened to you in your past. Well, then our friend canceling, you're going to perceive that as proof why people can't be counted on. And if I'm sitting there and I'm like, my perspective is life gets busy, then I might perceive it as just, that's normal. It's not a big deal. Like they have a newborn, so that's going to happen and it's forgivable. It's the same event. It's different perception. And so confirmation bias works behind the scenes to make sure that the story that is inside of your head matches what you're actually seeing in reality, what you're perceiving in reality, even if it means that you have to distort reality. And I realized this. I actually love to challenge myself. Like it's a game I've really kind of become good at. And I noticed myself a couple years ago doing this in basketball. And I was watching basketball games and it was the NBA playoffs and my team was in the playoffs and there would be a foul and the other team would foul and it'd be like a little, they'd foul my team. It'd be like a little barely touch them. I'd be like, yeah, that's definitely a foul, And then my team would barely touch the other person. I'd be like, oh my God, he barely touched him. And it's like, actually, no, objectively, that's a foul. So even with my team, sports teams, we do this all the time. And, my sports team is basically like someone else's equivalence of their belief of not being good enough or smart enough or any of that. We all do it. We all have the confirmation bias. And so what we need to do is really start to challenge ourselves, challenge our perspective. Because you can't completely remove your perspective because it's part of being a human, but you can challenge it and you can check it against reality so that you can actually see more clearly, which is what we all really want to do. We want to see reality clearly, not through a distorted lens. And so here's what you need to do. Find all of your beliefs about yourself, about your religion, about the world, about politics, about other people, about everything. What you're capable of, any of that. Then when you notice that belief come up, what I want you to do, challenge it. I want you to act like your entire life you've been on one side of the debate room, and now you're going to go on the other side of the debate room, and you're going to try to debate yourself as to why your belief is actually false. And you're going to look for evidence for why your belief is not true. Because your beliefs you should hold really loosely. Like a belief is just a thought that you've had so many times that you actually think that it's true, but you're living in your own hallucination. Your beliefs are very, very, very rarely objectively true. Almost any belief that we hold can be proven false. And so if we don't challenge our beliefs can really become a prison. And you want to be free. So your goal here isn't to completely erase all of your perspective. It's really just to try to see the truth more clearly. Because if you can see the truth more clearly, you can get yourself free from your own beliefs and your old identities. And then you can actually start to shift your life. When you learn to challenge the angle that you're looking from, your perception stops being a mirror of our biases and it starts becoming a window to see objective truth more clearly. And so, why you want to change your confirmation bias, because you might be sitting there going, well, I have these beliefs. I've had these beliefs my entire life. Like, Why would I need to change them in the first place? Well, because if not, we get stuck in echo chambers where we try to find other people who think exactly like we do. And we mistake agreement from other people for actual truth. This is why you'll very rarely ever see somebody who believes on one side of the political spectrum watching the news from the other side of the political spectrum, is because they don't want to actually have their confirmation bias in any sort of way challenged, in their beliefs challenged in any sort of way. And when you stay stuck in any sort of place, you lose the opportunity to grow. You know, the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, that you don't want to hear, never gets past your mental firewall. And so you never grow in any sort of way. And so you build this distorted reality that feels real to you, but it's really just one giant hallucination that you live in. And the more invested that you are, like emotionally invested you are in a belief, the stronger the bias actually becomes. And then that belief, especially if that belief is tied to your identity of who you think you are, then changing your mind and changing your identity and your belief about yourself feels like changing who you are. And your brain will almost always fight that at all costs. But this, for you guys that are out there that self-sabotage a lot or that start something and can't finish it, this is usually the main thing that's holding you back, which is your identity. This is my main thing that I really harp on and I really try to help people overcome and coach people on in stuff like Mindset University, which is my year-long course that I go through. In Mindset University, and I try to help people get free from the identity of who they think they are. Because you can try to change in your life and try to grow, but if you don't change your identity of who you think you are, you will almost always fall back into the cycle of self-sabotage. Your identity is just a set of beliefs about yourself. And as I said, beliefs are not objectively true. They are just thoughts that you've been thinking for so long that you believe that they are true. And so this becomes very uncomfortable for a lot of people. Most people would rather be comfortable, sit in their beliefs, and just stay in their beliefs forever. The reason why it feels so uncomfortable is because your brain actually treats belief-changing evidence as a physical threat. This is why you see so many people get mad when their beliefs are challenged. It's like an animal that's being backed into a corner that needs to attack in order to get out. And they actually found in fMRI studies that when people encounter information that contradicts their really strong political beliefs, that their brain's amygdala, which is their fear center, actually lights up. It's the same region that's activated during physical danger. And so the translation of that is challenging your beliefs in your mind feels like death to your nervous system. But the paradox of all of this is that the willingness to be wrong and to challenge your belief, any beliefs, is the quickest way to changing yourself. Instead of being so set in your ways, be open to being more malleable. Be open to being proven wrong. Because when you break your confirmation bias, you see things more clearly, not from a perspective that's clouded in old beliefs. You make better decisions, and then you will be able to actually grow. And at that point, stop self-sabotaging yourself. And so the thing that you need to realize when you start actually looking through this is that you find your beliefs and then you challenge your beliefs in some sort of way. I had a client years ago, and she had like a series of breakups, right? And she knew that she was the problem in her relationships. And it was her perspective. And her identity was, I'm the problem in my relationships. Nobody wants to be with me. And I was like, okay, so that was her perspective. And I'll listen to her perspective, but then I go, as a coach, I need to challenge her perspective to see if maybe there's something that might be untrue in this perspective. So then we broke it down. And she had 2 breakups that were mutual breakups in a row. She had another breakup that was due to a relocation. The guy had to move for work. And one of them was, someone that was incompatible with. So she had 4 breakups in a row that she was kind of looking through the perspective of, I'm the problem. Nobody wants to be with me. And as we went through, it's 2 of them. Well, 2 of those. So 50% of those were mutual. She actually helped me, break that relationship up. One of them was because the guy had to move. And the other one, she just said was incompatible. And so was it a fact that she was the problem, that nobody wants to be with her? No, that was her interpretation of the events that happened. And that's usually what our beliefs are and our perspective is. And so when we looked at the facts, her interpretation kind of dissolved. And then her story, as it shifted, had to shift her beliefs. So it's important for us to try to see the facts, the objective truth, and not listen to the interpretation. Her old belief had filtered all of this data to fit her story of, I'm the problem, they don't want to be with me. And once she saw the full picture and she saw all of the truth and all of the data, her story shifted. And as her story shifted, her identity was able to shift as well. So she didn't just change her perception, she actually changed her identity of herself as well. Oh, if I'm not the problem, then actually that might mean that I can get into a relationship again and be okay. And once you see it from a different perspective, you cannot unsee it. And so that's really what it comes down to, is that we are not seeing the world as it is. Like, you're not seeing the world as it is. You're seeing the world as you are through this lens of perception and your confirmation bias. And so you have a choice. You can live in the mental equivalent of sitting in a dark room with all of the blinds down and say, this is just how it is. This is how the world is. This is how my identity is. These are my beliefs. Or you can realize you're in a dark room. You can rip open the blinds and you can see the entire truth. Because the scariest thing about the confirmation bias isn't that it makes us wrong. It's that it makes us sure that we're right. And certainty is one of the most dangerous illusions that you can believe in. And so what I want you to do is, if you really want to grow and improve yourself, start to challenge your beliefs more often and see things from a different perspective. That is how you'll become more free. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. If you love this video, YouTube thinks that based off of what you've been watching recently, this video is the best one for you to watch right now. You're going to get the most out of it. And if you want to make sure you subscribe so that you never miss another episode, click this button right here. Hey, if you've been following me for a while now and you're really serious, like truly ready to transform your life from the way that you think to changing your habits to overcoming your fears and limiting beliefs and actually start to live the life you've been dreaming of, I have something that you're going to want to be a part of. I'm about to launch something that's going to be really, really powerful to the public. And I want you to be one of the first people to know about it. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working closely with a small group of people. I'm going to be coaching you. I'm going to be guiding you. I'm going to be pushing you to your next level. And I'm not going to be sharing all the details just yet, but if you've been waiting for a sign to go all in on yourself and your life, this is it. All you have to do is go to coachwithrob.com right now and you can join the waitlist. When you're on the waitlist, you'll be one of the first few people to actually know when the doors open, and you'll get early access plus a massive discount. Again, all you have to do is go to coachwithrob.com, or you can click the link that's down in the description, join the waitlist, and you will know as soon as I launch it. And now, back to the show. I want to start off and give you a phrase that I made up a couple years ago, and it just changed the way that I think. And I say it to myself multiple times a day. I'm constantly talking to myself in my head. And the phrase is this: I will not let anybody piss on my picnic. And so let me explain what that means to you, because without context, it makes no sense. But the phrase is, I will not let anybody piss on my picnic. It means that I'm going to make today a great day, regardless of what happens to me. Regardless of who tries to come and piss on my picnic, metaphorically speaking, of course, I'm going to have a great day no matter what. And to be fully transparent with you, and without getting into too many details, I started thinking this way because there's someone who's in my life that I see pretty often, and I can't, completely get rid of this person in my life. So I can't just completely let go of them. I won't tell you reasons why, and I'll just leave it at that. But I notice how sometimes this person comes around every once in a while, and they just kind of try to bring everyone down. They must have like negativity coming out of their pores. And I noticed that when they would come over and try to piss on my picnic, I noticed that my energy would shift to a place of not wanting to be around them, and starting to get a little bit pissed off that they were around, or starting to get pissed off that they were talking to this person that way or talking to me this way. And so I noticed that my energy started to shift. And I just said to myself, I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Like, I will not let them f up my day. I will not let them piss on my picnic. And I said that phrase to myself, and I laughed out loud. And I was like, that's a good pattern interrupt. Like, I noticed myself getting pissed off because of somebody or something not being the way that I want. And I say, nope, nobody's going to piss on my picnic. I kind of laugh about it. It gets me out of my little, pissed off mood. And then I'm like, oh, I'm kind of in a good way. And, if that person wants to have a shitty day, fine, completely up to them. But I will not let it affect me in my day, because I'm out here trying to live an epic life, like the best life that I possibly can. And I let this negative Nancy come in and ruin my day, then that's not going to help me live an epic life. And so I just want to say it up front. When you really look at it, this is a decision. It's you saying that you are not at the mercy of your circumstances. And I really want you to understand this. You are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You're not having a bad day because things are chaotic. You're having a bad day because of the way that you're thinking about your current circumstances of life. That's it. I'm not judging anybody on it, but you're not having a bad day because of your life, because of that person, because of your circumstance, because of your bank account. You're having a bad day because of the way that you're thinking about those things. And that right there puts you into a place of power. Because if I think, or if you think that the way that you feel is just because of your circumstances, or because she said this to you, or because your boss said that to you, or because you didn't make as much money this month as you wanted to, if you're saying, I feel this way because of that thing that's outside of me, or that person that's outside of me, you are a victim. And if you're a victim, there is nothing that you can do about that. So you're basically saying, my life is just the way that it is, and I'm going to feel like shit because of the way my life is. But when you sit there and you decide, and I'm saying this word very purposefully, decide how you want to feel and who you want to be, and you make that decision, you are now in a place of power. You are in a place of control in your life. It is your choice. And if it's your choice, then you can change it. And so what I want to talk about is just deciding to be the person that you want to be. I would say that most people wait for conditions of their life to give them permission to feel good. And people think things, and I've done this for years of my life, like, oh, if this meeting goes well, then I can finally relax. Or if my partner's in a good mood, then I'll feel better. Or, if the universe would just cooperate with me, then I could finally be happy. Or like, once I get X amount of dollars in my bank account, then I'll have less stress. But that's not actually true, because let's tell the truth. That is basically, when you're saying, I'll feel this way if this happens, that's emotional outsourcing is what you're doing. That's you giving away your peace to whatever or whoever is the loudest today. And that's the complete opposite of being in control of your own life. Like, you don't need to have a perfect day to be a powerful person, to be a person who takes action, be a person who loves everybody as much as they can, have as much joy and happiness and fulfillment. You don't need a perfect day for that shit. And to be honest with you, you won't have many perfect days in your life, because most of the times stuff's going to go off the rails. And so what you need is you need a decision that no matter what happens, I'm going to be this way. And that decision sounds like, no one can piss on my picnic. Today is mine. And I've already decided that today is going to be amazing. And you just have that mantra running through your head no matter what. And it shifts you out of your little negative Nancy mindset that you might get into, or shifts you into, paying attention to this thing, or saying, I'm not going to be happy because of that. But ultimately, the point here is the decision. You have to decide who you will be no matter what. You have to decide who you will be no matter what. That is actually the only thing that you're really in control of, not the circumstances. You can decide who you want to be, how you want to think, how you want to feel, and how you want to act. Everything else, kind of just got to hope that it goes well. You can't control anything else besides that. And the person that you decide to be each day is a decision, whether you realize it or not. But for most people, and for me, for many autopilot years of my life, it was an unconscious decision to be the same person that I was yesterday. I'm just going to be the same person that I was yesterday because this is the way I've always been, and this is all that I know. And, when you look at neuroscience actually shows you that your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings drive your actions, and your actions shape your entire reality. And so what should we go back to? Anytime something is screwed up in our life, going back to our thoughts. And this isn't like woo-woo stuff like, hey, you should pay attention to your thoughts, man. Your thoughts reflect your reality. No, this is actual real neuroscience. So when your brain says, oh God, today's just so hard, or I didn't sleep well, so today's not going to be a great day, or oh my gosh, it's just been so tough today. When you say that and you think that, you feel different. You feel heavy. It's just a hard day. And when you feel heavy, you act sluggish because you act based off of how you feel. And you might be sluggish, you might be short-tempered, you might be withdrawn, you might be acting exhausted. And it creates a day that feels hard, even if nothing is catastrophic in your life. Like, oh my God, today was so hard. What happened? Oh, you didn't get as much sleep as you wanted to. Oh, your boss sent you an email and it made you start thinking about things. Oh, the person who made your lunch didn't make it the way that you wanted to. Oh, boo-hoo, right? It's like not the worst thing in the world that could happen. There's so many people out in the world whose lives are so much worse than yours and still they're happier than you. And so many people are really self-sabotaging their entire lives because their mind goes unchecked, and this turns a bad thought into a bad feeling. And when you feel bad, you don't usually take proactive steps in your life to make your life great. And so you're just self-sabotaging and kicking yourself in the crotch every single day. And the brain is not the enemy. It's just really, really good at being right. It looks for confirmation that your dominant thoughts are true. And so it looks for proof that what you think is true. And in psychology, this is called the confirmation bias. Your brain is constantly searching to confirm what you think is true, no matter what you think is true, whether you think that you're a shitty person, or if you think that you're an amazing person, or if you think that he's an asshole, or you think that he's a good person, or you think that life is hard, or you think that life is amazing. It filters out anything that doesn't match up with your dominant thoughts and your emotional state. And it runs and turns into old patterns that just continue to keep going unless you give them a new direction. But you have to be the person that steps in. You have to be the person to take a mental step back, look at your life, and realize, let's be honest, life ain't as bad as we tend to make it out to be in our mind. If you just pause, I like to do this when I'm running, Mindset 2.0, Mindset University, my group calls. And I like to pause people in the moment. I'm like, just look around you for a second. And I'm on a Zoom call with a bunch of people and I say, look around you for a second. You're thinking about the things that are stressful, the things that are wrong, the things that are not the way that you want them to be, and it's ruining your day. But if you take a step back and you just think, oh my gosh, I have food in my belly. I'm sitting in air conditioning. I have enough money to pay for a computer and be on the internet. I'm part of a course with a whole bunch of amazing people. I'm improving myself. I'm growing. Life's pretty good. It's not that terrible. So wherever you are, if you're in a coffee shop, or you're in your car, or you're in a boardroom, or if you're crying on your bathroom floor, I guarantee you this, there is somebody, if not many people on this planet right now, going through a whole bunch worse shit than we are, that would love to trade places with you right now. They would give up everything to trade places with you right now, even on your worst day. Even in your deepest struggles, even if you're crying on the bathroom floor because someone else is seeing that and going, I wish that I had food in my belly like they do. I wish that I had an air-conditioned bathroom that I could cry in. This is something that I do to myself all of the time, is I have to check my own perspective and change my perspective in the moment. Because as humans with a negativity bias, our minds will almost always go to negative. And so, lately, sometimes that happens that the baby wakes up at 4:00 in the morning. He's crying. He needs to be fed. I don't want to be up. I want to be asleep. But then as I'm sitting there and I'm feeding him, it's 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, oh God, I just want to be asleep. I get all pissed, whatever it might be. I think that they're like, somebody else in the world would give everything that they have to trade places with me. Maybe they can't conceive. They trade everything to be in the place of sitting here right now, feeding a baby at 4:00 in the morning, right? Maybe they lost a child. Maybe their children are grown and out of the house and they're older now and they just think, oh my God, I would love to go back to those days. I'm living in somebody else's dream. To someone else in this world, you're living their version of heaven on earth. Is your family messy? It's their dream. Your job, you're bored with, you don't get treated as well as you want to, somebody's ultimate goal out there. Your body that you criticize and talk shit to, somebody else's unanswered prayer. It's like the phrase when someone's healthy, they have a 1,000 wishes. When someone's unhealthy, they have one wish, right? And it's so wild how often we just go to the negativity and not being like, well, who do I want to be? How do I want to think? And how can I think about how amazing my life is, no matter what happens? This doesn't mean that things aren't hard. It doesn't mean that you don't strive for more. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to think that way or to be that way or to try to grow or try to improve or try to make more money or have more fun or build your business. It just means that you don't have to wait for more in order to feel good now. And so it's like, you have to realize you're not the thermometer in your life, you're the thermostat in your life. Like the reframe to change your life is most people walk into a room and they feel the vibe and they absorb the vibe and they act the way that, people around them are acting. They take on stress or they take on drama or they take on someone's low energy or negativity. That's like a thermometer, right? They just reflect the temperature that's around them. But not you, not anymore. Like you're not going to be that person anymore. You have to be the thermostat. You have to decide that you are going to set the tone. Whether it's around other people or whether it's just in your own damn life, you need to set the tone. You need to choose the energy that you're going to have no matter what. I'm setting the temperature, not adjusting to the temperature. You don't absorb anything. You generate everything. That's leadership. That's responsibility. That's freedom more than anything else. Freedom is when you stop living somebody else's life that was programmed or conditioned into you when you were younger, and you just think to yourself, I'm going to decide from this moment forward, okay, yeah, maybe you're 37 years old and you've been this person. You've been Stacy up until 37 years old, and you've been that person that's been programmed from childhood and from teenage years and through relationships, and you've been programmed to be this person. Okay, from this, that was chapter 1 of my life. Now we're going to flip to chapter 2. I'm going to decide who I want to be, how I want to act, what I want to do, and how I want to feel every single day. Who I want to be, how I want to act, what I want to do, and how I want to feel. And I'm the one that's in charge of that. That's pretty much the only thing that I'm in control of. And that's the only thing that you're really in control of as well. And so what you have to ask yourself is, who are you choosing to be today? What kind of person do you actually want to be? No matter what's going on with the rest of everything, the weather outside and the people around you, no matter what happens around you, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the grounded one? Do you want to be the hard worker? Do you want to be the playful one? Do you want to be filled with joy and love? Do you want to be the high vibration, unfazed person? What do you want to be? The good news is that's not who you are. Like that version of you, there's 400 versions of you throughout your entire life. You just need to decide which one of that versions you want to be. You want to be the one that's full of joy? I bet there's one moment in your life where you're full of joy. That version of you already exists. They're not like a someday person. Like when I get to this destination, finally I'll feel this way. Or after the kids are grown and they're out of house, then I can be this type of person. No, they're decision you. They are who you decide to be. And everyone wakes up, as I said earlier, and decides to be somebody every single day. It's just that most people do it unconsciously. And they're just unconsciously deciding to be who they were the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that. And it's, as Alan Watts says, it's all retch and no vomit. Like nothing actually changes. Nothing actually happens. You get to access that person whenever you want, the new person, simply by deciding who you want it to be and choosing the thoughts that match their identity. Let me give you kind of just a simple step-by-step process, right? I want you to actually follow these steps. The first thing you want to do is you want to anchor that identity as soon as you wake up in the morning with an identity statement. You need to decide who you want to be in the morning. And then what you need to do is you need to anchor it with some sort of statement and write it on a piece of paper. Today, I will be ... Or today, I am the kind of person who ... Right? Today, I'm the type of person who stays calm under pressure. Today, I'm the type of person that nothing fazes them. Today, I'm the type of person that is filled with love and joy. I'm the type of person who finds ultimate happiness and all the mundane things. I'm the type of person who has a amazing day, even if I get hit by a car. That's how I'm going to feel. That is my internal GPS of my destination for the day, where I am and where I'm going. So that's the first thing. Next thing you need to do is you need to have some sort of mental reframe. Every time something doesn't go the way that you want to, or someone doesn't act the way they want to, or something quote unquote bad happens to you, it's not like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? It's like, hey, this is happening, but I already decided who I'm going to be. What's the opportunity here? Because I'm not going to get all negative about, or woe is me. Or you say like what I said, hey, okay, this person's going to be this way. I'm not going to let him piss on my picnic. I'm having a great day, right? And you go back to your decision from this morning and you be the person that you said you're going to be. So that's the next one. The third thing that I recommend, if you can do it, is a visual trigger, like a physical object that reminds you of who you're becoming in that morning. It could be like a ring. It could be a watch. It could be a note that you write down on a sticky note and you decide to take that and put it on your computer in the morning. And you say, this is who I'm deciding to be. So that when something happens, you look at that note and you're like, that's right. It could be a playlist that you listen to. Something that says like, hey, this is the vibe that I'm choosing today. Shit hits the fan, I'm putting on my playlist. I'm playing my playlist all day long. And so you see this thing, the ring, the watch, the sticky note, whatever it might be, you hear it if it's the music in the background multiple times a day to just remind you, because we always slip back into our old version of ourselves. We want to bring ourselves back. And my challenge to you is to try this for one day, like just decide who you want to be and then be that person no matter what. Don't abandon that person no matter what happens, no excuses, and watch how different you feel by 8 p.m. today. And so listen, the world is loud. It's reactive. It's panicked. There's always something that's wrong. I promise you, my entire life, there's never not been something that's wrong on the news, on stations, everything. There's always something that's wrong. But when you choose peace, when you choose joy, when you choose happiness, when you choose purpose, when you decide that nobody can piss on your picnic, you're rebelling against the status quo. You're rebelling against the old you. It's you being who you want to be from now on, not who you were programmed to be. So next time the day tries to knock you down, knock you off course, just smile. Say, that's funny. I've actually already decided that today's going to be freaking amazing. And then I'm going to go out and make it so. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Based off of what you've been watching recently, YouTube really thinks you should watch this video next. It's algorithmically chosen for you. And if you want to make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes, click that one right there. Today, we're going to be talking about what the hell do you want? Like, what do you want in this life? What is it that's the thing that you want? And, I ask people this all the time. I'm like, what do you want? And most people are like, I want to be like happy, and I want to be able to have some more money, and like it'd be nice to travel and stuff. And it's so crazy to me that so few people know what they want. Like they kind of have an idea, but there's no real like set, this is what I want. And it's funny because they're not really clear. And then they're mad that they don't have what they want, even though they don't know what the fuck they want, right? Like that's pretty crazy if you think about it. Like you need to know what it is that you want. And the more clear that you are on what it is that you want, the more likely you are to get it, because you can start saying yes to certain things and you can start saying no to certain things that don't line up with it. But the main reason why people don't get what they want in life is because they don't really even know what they want in life. It's like, I always give the example on the podcast of, it's like your mom calls you up before Christmas and she's like, honey, what do you want for Christmas? And you're like, oh, I don't really know. Just get me something, whatever you want. And then you open up your gift on Christmas and you're like pissed that she didn't get you what you wanted. And she's like, well, you didn't tell me what you wanted. It's like the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in, is constantly asking you like, dude, what the hell do you want? And you don't know, but you're pissed that you don't have it, right? So like, what do you want? Like, what is the reason why you're on this planet? What is when you die, how will you be remembered? Have you ever thought about that? Like, and it's not like just materialistic or traveling or a certain amount of money, but like, who do you want to be? Like, what kind of character traits and qualities? Like, when people are talking about you at your funeral and the eulogy, like, what do you want them to be saying about you? And can you figure out what traits and qualities and characteristics you want in yourself and be very clear on those and remind yourself of them every single morning so that you can start building yourself more into that person? Like, what do you want? Most people are standing there and like, I don't really know what I want. And because they've been told what they're supposed to want their entire lives. And it's like a skill set, right? It's like maybe you're so numb to what you want and your desires that you don't even know what you want anymore. And it's like going into the gym. You haven't used that desire muscle in a long time. You haven't thought about your own vision in a long time. So you're kind of like, I don't know what I want. Okay, well then let's try to figure out what it is that you want. And can we start to build that into you? Because when you're born, you're a baby, like you know what you want. When you're hungry, you cry. When you're in pain, you cry. When you wanted affection, you cry. Like you knew what you want and you were like, give it to me, right? So what happened? What happened to you? What happened to us? Somewhere along the way, we're told, oh, don't be selfish. You want to be president? Oh, that's dumb. No one in this family's ever even graduated college. We don't come from a good part of town. Nobody likes us. We're not educated enough. That's dumb for you to think that you could do that. And, somewhere along the way, we go from believing we can do anything and we can get anything that we want in our life to it's not even realistic to get anything that we want in life. So somewhere along the way, somebody or many people smash our dreams and tell us to be realistic. And just because somebody else had their dreams and their goals destroyed doesn't mean that they have the right to do the same to you. And it's up to us to rediscover why we're here and what it is that we truly want. People say, oh yeah, you want to do that? No. You want to run your own business? No. Get a real job. That's dumb. You don't want to run your own business. Maybe you're, going to go to school and you want to do something cool. Like you want to be a musician and your mom's like, no, you have to go and you have to be an engineer. And so you go and you be an engineer because your parents told you to. Or you're a doctor because your parents told you to. The amount of people that I know that reach out to me on Instagram and they're like, Rob, I feel so lost. I'm 37 years old. I went to school for engineering, or I went to school for nursing, or I went to school to be a doctor, and it's not what I truly want. And I feel lost because my parents told me that's the thing I had to go to school for, and I don't want to do it. And it's so crazy to me and so sad that so many people, I don't want to say wasted, because that's not the right word. You don't really waste years. You just learn what you don't want. But they followed other people's vision for their own future versus building their own vision. And so they wanted to be an artist, or they wanted to be a musician, or they wanted to, breed horses, or they wanted to make jewelry, or they wanted to do something completely different. Maybe they wanted to be on TV, but they followed the quote unquote realistic, secure route. If there's one thing that we've realized over the past few years since COVID hit, is that the least secure thing that you could do is work for somebody else. Like what we thought was secure within a couple weeks became very unsecure, right? And so if secure is going to college and getting a job, the past few years have shown us that is actually the least secure thing that you could do. The most secure thing that you could do is work for yourself. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to work for themselves, but if you are out there and you're like, man, I really wanted to start that business, but I decided to go the safe route, it ended up not being the safest route, because I work for myself, and guess what? My boss is pretty awesome. I can't fire myself, right? I can't get fired. That's pretty awesome. And so it comes back to like, what do you want? If money were no object, and this is a thing that I've found with a lot of people, most people throw away their hopes and their desires because of money. They do. They throw it away. And so like, if I always like to say, it's like, Alan Watts always says, what would you be doing if money were no object? Like if money did not exist, or you had all the money in the world. The example I always give is like, say you wake up tomorrow morning and there's $500 in your bank account. Some amazing person makes a generous donation of $500 million. You're going to buy a bunch of stuff and have some fun and buy some clothes and watches and travel and some cars and some houses and some planes. But eventually you're going to spend $100 million and you're going to be like, well, what the hell do I do now? Right? Like what would then be fulfilling to you in your life? Because so many people just give away their hopes and their dreams and their desires to simply chase money. So it's like Alan Watts always says, he says, if you work just to make money and you don't like your job and you're following money, then you'll just continue to be doing things that you don't like doing in order to keep living, which is to be doing things that you don't like doing. So it's better to have a short life doing things that you love than to live a long life in a miserable way. And so what did you want to be as a kid? What do you love to do now? What interests you? What's your passion? What's your hobbies? When you were a kid, you could be you wanted to be a fireman, or a firewoman, and you want to be the first female president, and you want to be a pilot, and you want to be an astronaut or something cool. And sometimes you want to be all of those things in one day, and you believed with every single fiber of your body that you could be all of those things in one day. But along the way, that is not quote unquote realistic. And somebody tells us we can't do that. And so we end up going the safe route. And so there's a part of you that still wants to do that wants to do something. There's something in this world. There's a few things in this world that you're probably made to do, that you have ultimate passion for, that it's what you're made for. Your brain, your body, your life circumstances perfectly line up to make you this person. What is it? What would you love to be doing? Because there's a lot of unhappy people out there that go the safe route and they think that's what they're supposed to do. And they wake up 10, 20 years down the road and they're like, where the hell am I? How the hell did I get here? And that is really what the reason why they call it a midlife crisis, is because you wake up and you think, what the fuck did I do with my life? Like, why did I do this? So if money were no object, how would you fill your time? What do you love? What do you want to learn? What skill set do you want to get better at? Like, is there a hobby or something that you want to do? What is your passion? And the important thing to realize is this, is maybe you do find your passion and your passion can make you money. Sometimes your passion can become your paycheck. And that's awesome if it is possible. But for a lot of people, your passion isn't your paycheck. And that's okay as well. So can you make a paycheck? Can you make the money however you're going to make the money, but then spend the majority of your time doing something that you truly love? You know, like if you live inside of the city right now and you live in the city because you're trying to make money, but you just love mountain biking and you don't get enough time to go mountain biking and you don't get out of the city enough, is there a way that you could figure out, whether it's with this job or another job or working remote or building your own business, to be able to move to a place that would allow you to have the maximum amount of time mountain biking? Now, will you make money mountain biking? Probably not. You'll probably lose money because you'll spend money on all of the supplies. But if you live in the city right now and you really love mountain biking, you haven't been mountain biking in 3 months, the hell are you doing? Figure out a way to go out to places where you could spend the majority of your waking hours outside of work, outside of with your family, to be able to do the thing that makes you feel the most alive. How do you know what your purpose and your passion is? Well, there's a couple different ways, but one of the ways is like, what gives you the most energy? Like when you get done, if mountain biking is your thing, right? When you get done mountain biking after a long day, you could be exhausted, but you have so much energy from it. Like you feel alive. What are the things that make you feel alive? Those are the things that you should be following. And so it goes back to like Ikigai. You've heard me talk about Ikigai before. It's a Japanese concept where there's 4 questions that you should answer, and you should just write down all of the answers of anything that pops up. Number 1 is, what are you good at? And you write down everything that you're good at. Number 2 is, what do you love? You write down every single thing that you love. Number 3, what can you be paid for? You write down everything you be paid for. And number 4, what does the world need? And you write down everything that you feel the world needs. And if you can find the overlap of all 4 of those, that is what they call Ikigai, is your reason for being. It is your reason why you're on this planet. The 5th question that I think is important that is never really asked is, what is something, or what are all of the things that just really you're interested in? Like, what are you really interested in? And so like for me, like I just love learning about people and about humans and all of this stuff. And so like a few episodes ago, I did an episode on like trusting your gut. And I spent hours researching like a nerd. Like I nerd out on these things of like, what is it? There's 500 million neurons in the gut. Holy crap, this is amazing. Like I'm researching about the gut, the second brain. Most people don't want to do that. For me, it's just something that makes me super excited. I want to learn more about. And so like, are there certain things that just kind of light you up? And can you figure out a way to make those things your profession? Maybe, maybe not. But you know, it's the way I like to think about it is this, is there's a phrase that talks about the hummingbird and the jackhammer, right? Like for me, what I do now, making this podcast, making videos on Instagram and YouTube and coaching people and doing what I do now, I'm going to be doing forever. Like I have a pretty good feeling this is writing books. All of this stuff is what I'm going to be doing forever. For some people, their passion might be something they do for 3 years, 5 years, and then they go do another thing for 3 years and 5 years. And so the jackhammer versus the hummingbird, this will give a lot of you guys some some relaxation into life is like the jackhammer is a person that knows what they want. They know what it is they're going to be doing forever. That's what I feel like I am. A hummingbird is somebody where you can, hummingbird will go from one flower to another, to another, to another, and they just kind of bounce around flowers. Some people, they have a passion. They're very passionate about something for 3 years, and then they just decide to go to the next thing. And that's fine. And then they go to the next thing, and they go to the next thing. And they just get really passionate about a couple things for a couple years, and then that's just what they do. Neither one is right. Neither one is wrong. It's just really about what makes you feel the most alive. And so what do you want? Do you want to travel? Do you want to quit your job and backpack Europe? If you have a feeling that you want to quit your job and backpack Europe, I'm telling you right now, do that as soon as possible. In 2012, I backpacked Europe. I quit my job. 2012, I was 26 years old. I was making really good money for a 26-year-old. I was making like $150,000, $175,000 a year. I saved up all of my money for a year, lived as cheap as I possibly could, quit that job, and went to Europe. And what was crazy about it was that I thought, like, I had planned it for 6 months, and so many people were like, so what do you do for work? And we talked for a while, and I was like, yeah, but in 3 months, I'm going to be leaving and going to Europe. I talked to so many people and told them that. I'm talking like 30, 40, 50, 60 people over 6 months, told them I was going to be doing that. Older than me, 40s, 50s, 60s. Not one person told me it was a bad idea to leave my job at 26 years old where I was making a bunch of money. Not one person told me it was a bad idea. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, I wish that there's two things that I heard all the time. Number one was, oh my gosh, that's an amazing idea. I wish that I would have done that when I was your age. That was the first thing I heard a lot. The second thing was, I did that and it was the best thing I ever did. Now, one person over months and months and months told me it was a bad idea. I went and did it. Still, some of the best months of my entire life, right? And I don't think I'd be doing what I do now if I didn't do that, because I realized on that trip, like, I can't work a normal job. I can't work for someone else. I have to be location independent. I have to be able to travel. I have to be able to move. I have to be able to do whatever it is that I want. And I realized that on that trip. Then 5 years later, I ended up, a couple of years later, I ended up getting a girlfriend. And then my girlfriend and I, 5 years later in 2017, backpacked for 6 months together. And we were able to do it because we built businesses that we could make money online. And so what is the most sensible or reasonable or secure route is never actually that route. It's like, what do you want? What is the thing that makes you feel the most alive? And that's what we really have to listen to deep within ourselves. Because if you don't follow it, it's going to bug you for the rest of your life. Like, if you wanted to go and travel and back out Europe for 3 months and you fast forward 20 years and don't do it now, and you fast forward 20 years, it's going to eat you up inside that you didn't do it. It is never a bad idea to do something like that. And so it's different for every single person listening to this podcast. There's hundreds of thousands of you that are listening to this podcast right now. There are hundreds of thousands of different desires and hopes and dreams and passions and purposes. I'm going to tell you what I tell you all of the time is it's okay not to know what your passion or purpose is right now, but it is not okay to not be in constant pursuit to find that. And so why are you alive? Why the hell are you here? What the hell do you want? You've got to figure it out. You've got to decide what you want, and you've got to put every ounce of energy into it, because the last thing you want to do is not do it and then find out too late that you should have done it. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. Once again, the only way that we grow is from you guys sharing this podcast. And so if you would share it, I would love it and appreciate you from the bottom of my heart so we can continue to keep growing. And with that, I'm leaving the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission, make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.